Hey all, I'm Cholasca, and I think everyone can build craft in Destiny 2. It's hard to know where to start as a new player, so each week we'll break down the exotics that Xur is selling and come up with some ideas to make the most of them. Then we'll use a 3-level system to slowly ease into our build making process. This way, you can follow along no matter how far you are in your Destiny journey. Level 1 will use the resources that everyone has access to. Level 2 will assume you've been playing for a while and are wondering how your mods and guns fit together. Finally, in Level 3, we'll really make the build come to life using every resource available. Recently, the Titans have been having their fun with their Thunder builds. Remind them who the true crown belongs to, for mighty are they of the Stormcloud thrones. In this build, we'll have near infinite uptime in our abilities, a true return to form for our Warlocks. So for Warlock, we've got the Crown of Tempests. And Crown of Tempests says, Arc ability or Jolt final blows increase the recharge rate of your arc abilities and extend the duration of Storm Trance. And there's a couple things that are popping out at me here is arc abilities and Jolt final blows. So for this build, we'll be looking at how to get as many of those as possible. Level 1, let's take a look at our subclass. Now our exotic does sound a lot like Electrostatic Mind, where this says that when we defeat targets with arc abilities or defeating Jolt targets, we create an Ionic Trace, which give us just ability energy back. So not only is our exotic helmet going to be giving us more ability regen, but we'll also just be getting bumps of energy from Electrostatic Mind. One really good way to get Jolt on a lot of targets is with Lightning Surge, where we can use our melee ability to blink forward and then jolt all the targets around us. And if we want to be doing that as much as possible, we'll take a look at our melee ability and we'll just pick the one with the lowest cooldown. In this case, it is Chain Lightning. And then we've got some fragments here that can kind of help with our jolting and getting even more Ionic Traces. So we've got the Spark of Shock here, which is saying that our grenade will now also jolt targets. The Shock of Ions, that says that defeating jolted targets creates an Ionic Trace. So now we'll be getting Ionic Traces not only from Spark of Ions, but also from the Electrostatic Mind. Then with Spark of Discharge, every time we get a kill with an arc weapon, we've got a chance to create another Ionic Trace. So we can combine that with our Xur weapon for the weekend, Hard Light. We'll just use our alternate ability here to change this into an arc weapon, and then suddenly our Hard Light is creating Ionic Traces for us. And then this last one, you can kind of throw whatever, but I threw Spark of Recharge in here just to go along with the theme here. Just whenever we get critically wounded, then our melee and grenade energy regenerates more quickly. So with that said, we're going to be wanting to get our discipline for our grenade as high as possible, and then also our strength for that blink ability as well. Outside of that, recovery is always great, especially on a Warlock, and since we'll be kind of blinking into a bunch of enemies, maybe a little bit of resilience to keep us alive. So let's try this out a little bit. So we got a couple ways to jolt enemies here. We can blink in, that's our blink there ability using my melee ability. Then we can also throw a grenade down. This could be pretty much any grenade. They'll all pretty much do the same thing here. And already I've got my melee ability back, so I can do another blink. That gave me my grenade almost immediately here. So we can kind of see that the build's working without much in terms of mods already. So that's pretty good, level 1 so far. I think we can make this just a little bit better. For one, Hard Light's okay, but there is a new perk this season called Volt Shot, that basically meaning that if we get a kill, we can reload it, and then the next shot will jolt enemies. So here we're getting even more sources of jolt, which means more Ionic Traces and more ability regen. So I've got a couple weapons here with that, the Linear Fusion Rifle from the season and also the Sidearm. And since we'll be using a bunch of arc weapons here, I put on Harmonic Siphon onto my helmet to get more Orbs of Power when we get those arc kills. And then on my legs for picking up those Orbs of Power, I've got Innervation, which is going to give me grenade energy whenever I pick up Orbs of Power, and then also Absolution, so just giving a little bit of energy to everything. Then I've got these stasis arms here, which you can go either way here. Either grenade kickstart or melee kickstart is going to be really good here. I kind of felt like because my strength is a little bit lower, I'm having a harder time getting my melee ability back, so I put it onto melee kickstart, but you could opt to go the other way if you wanted to. And then since I'm blinking in, I am putting on melee resistance damage and then just the thermo shock plating from the seasonal artifact. Got my kill, and then I reload. Then my shot jolted, created ionic traces. Perfect. Gonna reload, get more volt shot, get my ionic traces. Now I've got a grenade. So level 3, obviously we're going to be going into elemental well mods here. That's just going to help get us our ability energy back super quick. So I want to throw on the bountiful wells so that all of my mods that create wells will stack and create more of them. And so for this, you could just put on 2 elemental ordnance so that you get 3 grenades for every grenade kill, and then you get 3 arc wells with grenade kills, and then put on 2 melee well makers, and then with the bountiful wells, that makes 3 wells every time you get melee kill. However, the jolt kills seem to also count as explosions, so I've opted to put on explosive well maker here, because those explosions from the jolt kills will actually create solar elemental wells, which means that I can put on my favorite Well of Life, which will heal me when I pick up those solar elemental wells. And I found that this made me a little bit more survivable, especially in harder content. However, if you only have a few of these mods, then you could just put on a bunch of elemental ordinances or melee well makers, and you would be doing great. I also noticed that the storm grenade was the most likely to make these solar elemental wells. Some of the other grenades, it wouldn't always work. And with the melee, it's really hit or miss if you get those solar wells. And it also has to be a multi-kill as well. So I did find this one's a little iffy, so if you wanted to just go the traditional route with getting only arc wells, I think that is really viable. But for those times where I want to get that extra healing, these solar wells are really great at keeping me alive, just being able to heal through all the damage that I'm getting. So I think it's worthwhile, even if it's a little inconsistent. Yeah, but by creating 2 to 4 welds with every single ability, I have plenty to get my abilities back almost immediately. So the goal for this fight is just to get as many kills as possible with our abilities, and then when we don't have them up, using Volt Shot to help get those ionic traces and get the energy ability back. Starting off with a juicy grenade kill here. And goodbye. So verdict, we should almost always be able to have our abilities up with this build. Survivability gets a little iffy in more challenging content, but I do think that using Explosive Well Maker and then Well of Life to get that healing is pretty key if you want to take this into anything more than seasonal activity or strikes. Remember, if you don't have these mods, be sure to check Banshee and Ada in the tower to buy their rotating assortment of mods daily. Thanks for listening. Subscribe and hit that bell icon so you get notified in time to get to Sir before he disappears, and so that you can follow along in the next video.